I told him I'm going to push for him to be the vice president.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen because I don't want to lose him off the Armed Service Committee. But I hope that you can give him, from the 25th Congressional District of California, the kind of welcome that he deserves. Yeah. Colonel Allen West.
Hey, look, thanks so much to my chairman, Congressman, your representative, Howard Buck McKeon, for inviting me out here to be with each and every one of you. And we're going to send him back to Washington, D.C. And I'm going to tell you why. But first and foremost, I was born down in Georgia, went to the University of Tennessee, so I figured I'd bring a little bit of South to Southern California. Now, I need you all to verify one thing. I didn't come out here to eat a tofu burger. Now, y'all got to tell me that's real beef over there. All right, as long as it's real beef, then I'm happy to be here. Look, ladies and gentlemen, this is such an important time for the future and the legacy of our great nation. And first of all, I want to ask, how many mothers do we have out there? Everyone give it up for the mothers. How many grandmothers do we have out there? Everyone give it up for the grandmothers. Tomorrow is Mother's Day. And it's a day when we're going to honor those women who do the things that make us who we are. And I can tell you that I can stand here right now because of a mother who was born in 1931 in South Georgia, who raised me to understand one simple thing, that a man must stand for something or else he will fall for anything. My mother passed away in 1994, but the young man that you see standing here before you is a reflection of the discipline, a reflection of the integrity and the character that she raised me up to have, because I believe that America produces strong men because America has strong mothers. But this is the challenge. After Mother's Day tomorrow, after you've had your breakfast in bed, after you've been taken out after church to go to the brunch, or after you've gotten whatever gifts that you wanted, I want you to think about the choice that you have to make as a mother, the choice that we all have to make between two different futures for this country. You've got these children that are out here. I see a couple of them sitting there eating hamburgers, enjoying this great, beautiful day, enjoying the fact that they have been so blessed to live in the greatest nation that the world has ever known, the United States of America. But if you're not careful, in the twinkling of an eye, the future and the legacy that we should seek to pass on to them could be lost. Because all of us that are adults are here because we had great mothers, great fathers, great grandparents and grandfathers, grandmothers, whatever, that enabled us to be here today, because they stood up and said that as part of the American DNA is that we pass on something better to subsequent generations than what was for us. And we cannot be the first generation that does not pass that on in our DNA. We cannot be the first generation that leaves our children and grandchildren a diminished America, an America that, if you've been paying attention to what is going on in France and Greece, that is the path that we could be on. Because that new president that was elected in France is saying many of the same things that our current president is saying. You cannot tax your way out of this. You cannot grow government big enough to get out of this. It is not about making the American people enslaved to a large bureaucratic nanny state. It is not about creating an entitlement welfare state. It's about empowering the American people. It's about setting the right type of tax and regulatory policies so that we can grow our businesses, so that we can reward individual industrialism and entrepreneurship, so that we can pass on, just like this beautiful winery that we're at, that will be passed on to another generation. But if you're not careful, next January, the largest tax increase that this country has ever seen will occur. If we're not careful, the death tax will go from 35% to 55%. The exemption level will go from 5 million down to 1 million. How are we supposed to pass on the greatness of this country if we're destroying it today? America is $15.6 trillion in debt, heading towards $16 trillion in debt. And if you read the president's fiscal year 2013 budget, he wants to add another 10 trillion to it.
What a guy.
He wants to take us to 26 trillion. And ladies and gentlemen, when you start to think about adding on things such as Fannie and Freddie, our debt is out of control. Our deficits are out of control. You know, if I hear President Obama say one more time, we don't want to go back to the policies of old, well, I got to tell him something. The largest deficit for President Bush was $500 billion. The largest deficit for President Obama was $1.42 trillion. The smallest deficit for President Obama was $1.29 trillion. I'd be happy to go back to a $500 billion deficit. We cannot destroy the economy of the United States of America. We have to unleash the American spirit and not harness it. We cannot look toward the government to promote economic dependency instead of economic freedom. But that's the path that we're on. When you look at what our gas prices have become, when President Obama came into office, it was $1.84 average across the United States of America. Now, I'm not a real smart guy, and everyone keeps talking about gas prices are dropping and getting lower. It is still $3.80-something all across this country. Until it gets back down to $1.84, we will not be satisfied, and President Obama is a failure. If we don't seek to develop the full spectrum of our energy resources, which means that we can get Americans back to work, our oil, our natural gas, our coal, our nuclear, biofuels, all the way down to the renewables. But we cannot have an ideological agenda that has resulted in 5 solar companies going bankrupt. And I think you know about one of them out here in California. We're wasting the American taxpayer dollar because this administration wants to be able to pick the winners and the losers in the marketplace, and that is not part of our free market principles. That is not why we have the greatness of this country. Our small businesses are suffering. When you look at Dodd-Frank and what it has done to our small community banks, it is destroying them. That's the lifeblood for our small businesses. They need to access the capital, but it's not there. I don't want to see the capital of the United States of America leaving, just the same as they're going to do in France, because he wants to tax the top income brackets at 75%. What happens here in the United States of America when your marginal taxation is anywhere from 70 to 75%? This is what they don't understand. The top 1% of wage earners in the United States of America pay 38% of federal income taxes. The top 5% pay 58%. The top 25% of wage-earning households in America pay 86% of federal income taxes. But there's 47% of those wage-earning households that are paying zero. We right now are on a ship of state, and only one half is rowing. And when you only have one half rowing on a boat or on a ship, you go around in circles. And that means that we're just going to run out of energy. Because the failure of a centralized government planned economy has always been that the producers stop producing. And it was Margaret Thatcher who said, socialism works very well until you run out of other people's money. Mothers, think about it. What do you want your children to say you left for them? Do you want a bankrupt country? Do you want a country that not only do they have to go to Saudi Arabia or Venezuela, they may have to go to China for energy resources? Instead of all the blessings that God has given us right here in this incredibly bountiful country that we call these United States of America, it is about truly passing on something better. But let me tell you why I'm really here. I'm really here to support a man. And I don't say that willy-nilly, because I'm just an old hardcore combat paratrooper. And we don't give up our support to just any old body. But our national security is so important. Right now, what are people talking about in our country? They're talking about gay marriage. They're talking about some $15 million party that got thrown down the road in Los Angeles. But what they're not talking about is the fact that we're about to decimate our United States military. We're about to take our military's ground forces down to a level that it has not been since 1940. We're about to take the United States Navy down to a position that it has not been since 1915. We're about to take the United States Air Force to its smallest level since we created the United States Air Force. And there is only one person that is talking about this. That's Chairman Buck McKeon. The president's not talking about it. The vice president's not talking about it. The Senate Majority Leader is not talking about it. The Speaker of the House is not talking about it. The House Majority Leader is not talking about it. The only champion that my brothers and sisters still in uniform, my nephew who is still in uniform has, is this man right back here. He is fighting to make sure that this sequestration does not go through. If sequestration goes through, ladies and gentlemen, Katie barred the door. The world is a more dangerous place. There are barbarians at the gates. Our borders are not secure. We have radical Islamists coming across our borders, establishing training camps in this country. We need to have, as Ronald Reagan, the great governor of California said, and the great president of these United States said, we must have peace through strength. Drawing down your military is not showing strength. But this is what you have to understand. There are people in Washington, D.C. that believe that the bill payer for our fiscal irresponsibility over these past years must be on the backs of the men and women that are the greatest amongst us, the veterans that are out here that have served. That is not the case. The budget of the United States military is about 19.5% of our overall budget. But they are taking 50 to 55% of the budget cuts in this country. Last week, the chairman worked hard so that we could bring up a bill that talked about some of these incredible entitlement programs that have grown out of control. In the past 10 years, the food stamp program in the United States of America has grown by 267%. And there are people on the other side, am I right, Chairman? They'd rather have people on food stamps than making sure our men and women that are going out there and protecting us have the resources, the weapons, and the training, and their families are taken care of. To me, that's absolutely reprehensible. There are people out there that believe that those of us that served 20 plus years in the military, those of us who receive whatever type of wounds, now we should have our TRICARE healthcare fees tripled.
Screw that.
You're right. When there was a promise that was made to each and every one of us that if you gave that service, you and your spouse would have quality health care for the rest of your lives. It's just the same as George Washington said. Future generations will judge their desire to serve this nation based upon how well we treat our veterans. Well, right now, we're not treating our veterans very well. That's why we got to have Chairman Buck McKeon back as the chairman of the Armed Services Committee. We've got to make sure that he has someone as a counterpart at the Senate to be able to continue on the policies that he's working for to protect our men and women in uniform. We've got to make sure that we have a true commander-in-chief in the White House that will get the right type of person to be the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Army, the Secretary of the Navy, the Secretary of the Air Force, so we protect our men and women in uniform. So again, as you sit here today under this beautiful California sun that will soon be setting over the mountains, think about what you will pass on to your children and grandchildren. Mothers, enjoy Mother's Day tomorrow. But on Monday, think about the gift that you're going to give your children. Think about the gift that American mothers have given to us throughout history. From the time of those sons of American mothers that stood at Lexington and Concord and fired the shot that was heard around the world. A shot that said that we would establish a great nation of liberty, of freedom, of democracy, a great nation that would observe the rule of law, a great nation that would understand the individual inalienable rights that do not come from man. They do not come from government. They come from him, of life, of liberty, of the pursuit of happiness. Government cannot guarantee you happiness. But yet there are people that believe that we can have an egalitarian society where everyone can be equal. If everything could be equal, well, guess what? I'd probably be down at the Staples Center tonight dunking a basketball. But dadgummit, I can't. But that's all right.
The Clippers need you.
The Clippers need you.
The Clippers?
Yeah.
There might be some Laker fans out here, so I don't need to make no enemies. But this is what you all have to realize. I met people out there from Russia. I've met people out there from the Philippines. I've met people out there of Hispanic descent. We heard Larry Elder's story. The greatness of America is that no matter where you're born, no matter where you come from, this nation is so exceptional that it provides you the opportunities to, as the Army once said, be all that you can be. It is not about trying to make people all the same.
No.
That's the message that you all have to send on November the 6th of 2012. Mothers, the greatest gift that you can give your children is when they wake up on the morning of 7 November 2012, Barack Hussein Obama will not be the president come next January. I don't care if people like him, then take him out to dinner.
Yeah.
But we need to have courageous leadership that is competent, that is committed, that is convicted, and has impeccable character. We need to have leadership that knows the essence of being an American. So I just want to challenge you to do one simple thing. It's tough out here in California, I know that. But soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines are far away from here, doing tough missions, so that you can be here and enjoy this great day. Honor them by standing up and fighting for this great constitutional republic that has been handed down for the past 236 years. And I guess I got a flyby.
Yeah, by Robinson.
Hey, you know what? That might be George Soros up there. Hey, George. They're not getting this country. Find 5 people that do not believe as you do sitting here today. And my challenge to you is based upon fact, based upon the conviction, based upon your beliefs. Get 3 of them.
That's right.
To see it the way that it should be. And then we will pass on a great, wonderful, unique, and exceptional America to the next generation. May God bless you all and God keep you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. For those who did not get a chance to eat, the food line will